Steven, if no one else can be a testament to this, you can fast, you can lose 200 pounds and not have loose skin. Hi, I'm Chris James, and you all are watching The Healthy Alternative. Today, we have the long-awaited completion, or at least as far as we've come. We probably have a little bit more left, but this is pretty much the completion of Steven's full 180-degree turn. See, most people say 360.
Yeah.
But we're not doing 360s today. We're doing 180s. We going about face, march. We are going to be looking at. We're gonna take a brief dive into your past. We're gonna look at where this all started back in February of 2017, if my memory serves me correctly. We're gonna look at where you started off, briefly looking at where your mental state was, what was some of the things that you were doing to address your depression, your weight, your body as far as disease and everything goes. We're going to look at the progression. We're going to look at some of the issues that were major obstacles in your life. And then we're going to find out where you are today and how you were able to achieve nearly a 200-pound weight loss.
Right there, man.
We're right on the cusp right now. Nearly 200 pounds later, we are going to get into Steven Michael's journey. That's coming up next. Stay tuned. All right, well, listen, man. First, let me say, welcome back. Welcome back. It's been a while.
Yeah, I've been gone, man.
Been gone for a minute. Now I'm back. It's a jump
Been
off.
around the world tonight.
For those who don't know, I posted a picture of you, a before and after picture. I stole one of your posts from out the group and I put it on the YouTube.
Okay.
And people were like, "Yo, is that your brother?" Da 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 da. I don't know. Maybe some people thought that I was you, but people were like, "You starting to look like me." Mm-hmm. So just so y'all know, we are brothers. Okay. So we actually started this journey in our dad's dining room.
Right. Literally.
And now we're back in our dining room in the studio, full circle here. And so, yeah, you are my brother, but just introduce yourself to the audience for those who don't know you.
So what's going on, guys? As Chris stated, my name is Steven Michael, and I am a holistic wellness coach. I specialize in emotional intelligence, helping people to increase their own emotional intelligence and fat loss and dietary strategies. So I guess you could say I'm a self-proclaimed fasting expert strategist.
Yeah, but maybe a little bit more than self-proclaimed. You have some certifications.
I got a few certifications.
Got a few certifications and a pretty elaborate track record as well. Public speaking. We've done several events. Coached hundreds?
Yeah,
maybe even close to 1,000 different clients at this point.
Yeah, just between all, between challenges and my one-on-ones and the group
easily
and the events.
So you know what you're talking about, but you haven't always been here.
No,
you haven't always been here. So let's talk about February 2017.
Take us back.
Let's go back, man. First of all, how tall are you? What did you weigh February 2017?
Okay. So I'm 6'4". Excuse me. So I'm 6'4", and in February 2017, in that video, so that's the first capture, right? So we're talking about that video.
Yeah.
I was, if I remember correctly, I was right in the 350 range. I was like 355, 356, something like that.
Right.
So that's where I was in that video. But just to bring clarity, I was actually larger than that before. So by the time, you reached out to me and I started my fasting journey, I had already been going through the process of dieting, losing weight. Right, I was right at 400 pounds, and I was going to the gym. Right, everyone's gonna understand this. I was going to the gym. I was eating chicken breast, white and brown rice, and broccoli. Right, that's all I was doing. And as I was doing that, I was doing that for months, and I had hit a plateau. And once again, by the time we did that video, I was about 350-ish. But you had reached out to me, and you were like, listen, we've been doing a little something in here in Texas, man. I want you to try something. And I was like, what you want me to try, man? At this point, I'll try anything, because I can't. I plateaued. I can't move. And that's when you really started talking to me about fasting, and you were going to be coming in town, and you were like, well, listen, it'd be great. We can do a video. So make sure you do like 5 days before I get there. And I don't remember exactly, but I believe that I had lost, it was probably around 15, 15 maybe to 18 pounds or so.
Something like that.
In that 5 days. So before you got there, before you did the video, I was in that 370-ish range. So I lost about 30 pounds prior to you reaching out. Then prior to the video, I lost another 15, and that's when we get to the video. So I was smaller because I had already been losing weight.
Right. And I was scared for your life because, obviously I saw you at 400, basically 400 pounds.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And not only that, it was your mental state, which if you guys go back to that first video that we keep referencing, you will see that he doesn't even have to talk. You could just look at the video. You could look at the video and you could see that you were mentally exhausted, energetically drained, spiritually broken. You were a shell of your former self, right? The brother that I had grown up with. And it was really difficult for me to see you that way, especially because I hadn't seen you in so long leading up to that point. So there was when you and I were together previously, we were living in Cincinnati, and you were going to the gym. I was going to the gym. We were playing dodgeball, once a week. We were going out twice a week.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were having a lot of fun living life. You were probably 226, 236 at that time.
Yeah. Oh no, I was like,
56.
I think the lowest I got at that point was like 280, 285.
Okay,
Yeah,
but still 100 pounds, easily 100 pounds lighter.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
When the last time I had actually spent time with you.
I went we're no 230s. Yeah, I was 285. I looked the best.
You looked, I remember you looked like you were 236 or something, 240. Yeah. So I was afraid for your life, honestly. We've got a history of diabetes in the family. We've had 2 grandfathers pass for different types of cancers and diabetes and different diseases and dementia and all these things. And you were resistant at first.
Was I? I don't remember.
At the very beginning,
I feel like I was always down for this.
You were resistant at first. You were still living in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
When I very first brought it up.
Okay, yeah.
And you were just basically like, bro, I'm working. I don't really have time for this. Like, you were interested, but you didn't have the mental capacity or the energetic reserve to really even consider it.
Hey, man, I was going through it at that point.
Yeah. So, I don't know if we want to fast forward a little bit. So I basically issued a challenge to you. We put together a pretty extensive plan that we adjusted kind of on the fly. So a lot of the curriculum that we developed for AHA came from the experimentation that Steve did, John did, as well as I. But Steven hit some really interesting milestones. So if you guys are familiar with the Fasting Shrink Week, part of how we figured the Fasting Shrink Week was analyzing Steven's fasting. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, during that time frame, it was a total of 3 months, almost exactly 90 days. And I was going to be, you had left, or you were leaving. We did the interview, and I was coming down to Texas for my birthday. And, I said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to put everything I have into it. I mean, my life was in shambles. But I said, so, I had nothing to lose at this point.
Right.
So what I did was I got one of those big desk calendars that you get from like Staples. I put it on my wall, and I literally every day I said, I'm going to just write something, what my weight is. How do I feel? Like, I'm going to just take notes, really not knowing how beneficial that was going to be to the growth of AJ and, of course, just myself. And there was so much data that we got from watching how everything changed on a day-to-day. And one of the things that happened was I went through this period where I'm like, hey, man, like, I'm doing this 14 days or, fast. And I'm like, my weight has just stopped. Like, it got to the point where I'm like, at one point my weight went up, and I'm like, Chris, I don't understand what's happening here. Right. So we, just through going through this process, I realized that when my weight had stopped, I started taping myself. And right, no one told me to do this. I don't think that maybe you told me, maybe I don't know.
I did.
Okay. So I started taping myself during those times, and then I realized I was getting way smaller when I wasn't like actually losing pounds on the scale. And then one day I was like, let me try a different shirt on. And, at that time I was in like at a 4X. And then I tried on a different shirt, and it was like, this is too big, right? And I put on a 3X, and I'm like, this fits me pretty good. Like, what I'm saying? I'm just thinking about these number of X's. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And at that point, I realized, that during these periods, we realized during these periods, if you're not losing physical weight, then you're going to start getting smaller. And this is how part of this was data to back up our claim about how fasting tightens the skin, how fasting doesn't leave you with loose skin and things of that nature. A lot of this happens during those fasting periods or those shrink weeks. And when you're going through a fasting cycle, or a long fasting cycle, mentally it can be very frustrating to get on the scale and you don't see numbers move, or you get on the scale and all of a sudden you gain a pound or you gain a half a pound and you're like, I didn't eat anything. I don't understand. So it's the most frustrating thing mentally when the scale is not moving. But at the end of the day, us that are going through fasting periods with the intention of not just getting the mental and the spiritual benefit, we want the physical benefit as well, the actual size. This is when that happens. So the shrink week is one of those times where, it can be frustrating, but honestly, that's what you really want. Mm-hmm. You want to be fasting to get to that shrink week, because that's when you'll wake up all of a sudden one morning, you're going to go down 2 pant sizes, or you're going to put on a dress that you wore last week and then it doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Or a shirt and it doesn't fit. That's what you want. So you really want to get to this process and get to the point where you can go through shrink weeks, so that way you see that massive decrease in your overall size.
It's that explosive contouring and decrease of weight. And just for people that aren't familiar, so the fasting shrink week typically happens if you're fasting and doing like a pure water fast, for example. If you would go 2 weeks, right? So you're fasting for 2 weeks. Anything after 2 weeks, so let's just say you're doing a 21-day fast, day 14 through 21, or around that time frame, you're going to experience literally about a week. It could be 5 days. It could be 8 days. Maybe Steve will give us some more data because we just went through something. So, but basically, you'll go through a time frame where you're not going to see any weight come off, but all the contouring and stuff's going to happen.
Correct.
So people ask all the time, what is the key? Well, can I fast and lose weight without having loose skin? And I think that Stephen, if no one else can be a testament to this, the answer is yes.
Yes.
You can fast. You can lose 200 pounds and not have loose skin.
Yeah.
So autophagy is the key component to, this shrink week. But hydration is another key component, which a lot of people miss out on.
Yeah.
What was your water intake like when you're doing these long fasts?
So it's very important, unless you are dry fasting, right? Typically with water fasting, you have to drink water. And now we understand that the body is only going to actually assimilate a certain amount of it. But actually drinking water is very important, right? Because a lot of you have collagen and things like that actually help with the elasticity of your skin. That's important. And a lot of times the reason that people deal with the loose skin and such is obviously, number one, the way they're losing weight, but also number two, they're dehydrated. So in order for you to, of course, number one, make sure that you don't have loose skin, you have to do it through fasting. You can't do it through surgery. You can't do it through calorie restriction. It has to be done through fasting, and you have to drink water. As far
I will say this.
Oh, okay.
One thing that I have seen, because we don't promote it as much, but one thing I have seen, I've seen people lose it with raw.
Oh, I'm okay. Well, that's
eating.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Eating completely raw. I've seen that as well.
That is a whole nother monster in of itself. Yes. But eating raw will do that as well for you, and fasting. So we'll say that. But as far as like overall water intake, the goal, especially in the beginning, more important than any other time, is going to be in the beginning, and you're going to want to be really trying to hit that 1 gallon a day. That's vitally important. And as your process goes on, right, depending on the length of your fasting, things are going to happen, right? So it may be difficult to start hitting that number. And this is part of the process, but you really want to be shooting for that gallon.
So you started fasting, you started dropping a tremendous amount of weight, you started contouring, you're dropping pant size, you're dropping shirt sizes. Clearly, this was motivating you. One of the questions I get a lot is, can you exercise while you're fasting? And you did a lot of this early, exploration into long-term fasting, exercising. What were some of your findings?
So when it comes to exercise and fasting, I get this question as well. And when this question is asked to me, I like to do something that it's like the cardinal sin for questions. It's answering the question with a question, right? As a cardinal sin, like you don't answer a question with a question. Right. So someone said, Stephen, can I work out? And then my question is always, why are you going to work out? What is your purpose of working out while you're fasting, right? This is very important. And I usually get the answer, well, I just want to lose more weight, right? Like that's typically the reason. And the reason that we think that way is because that's what we've been programmed to think, that the way that you lose weight is by decreasing calories, increasing activity equals weight loss. But we know just from our world, if we look around, that's actually not true. That actually doesn't work. So there is no actual physical weight loss benefit by fasting and working out and going to the gym. Now, with that being said, there are benefits to working out while fasting as well, right? So we know that human growth hormone skyrockets like in the first 72 hours of any fast. So if you are going to the gym because you are an athlete or you want to build muscle, or you're only doing short fasts and you specifically want to do like fasted training, fasted cardio, things of that nature, then sure. Right? Go to the gym to take benefit of that HGH production, right? You don't have to get it from some sort of shot or a pill. You can get it naturally, and that will help with muscle production. Now, the benefit of muscle production, having more muscle, is it requires more energy to maintain muscle than fat. So by having more muscle in your body, you can essentially burn more calories, which essentially helps you to decrease the amount of fat in your body. Here's the part of this that a lot of us don't think about, because that sounds great. You're like, I want more muscle. Let's do that. But we have to think of the mindset of the dieter, right? The person that is on what I like to call the wellness wheel, right? So like the rat race, the person that's always dieting. They're constantly dieting. They've been doing it their entire life. We have to think about the mindset of that person. The mindset of that person typically is going to measure success based upon the scale. That's 95% of dieters. Measure success based upon the scale. So think about this. If that's the mindset of the person, and we know that that's how they think, and that's how they measure success, if you put that person and they go to the gym and they're increasing muscle production, and they're fasting, and they're working out, and they're getting stronger, right? We know that muscle has density. It has size to it. So what is it going to do? It's going to then increase weight. Right? So if you increase weight, and yes, you may be decreasing fat, right? So you're increasing muscle, but you're decreasing fat, your body will then actually show. So we have this word called toning, right? Which is really kind of a misnomer. It is a kind of a myth because you can't actually tone your body. What you can do is you can increase muscle or you can decrease fat, which essentially is what we consider toning. But, they're not one and the same. It's kind of they're not one and the same. So when we think of the mindset of the dieter, if they measure success based upon the scale, then going to the gym and then working out and then seeing that scale move very slowly, but you're not eating and you're in the gym and you're like killing yourself, it's going to be very uncomfortable. And you think that the scale is going to be moving faster, but it won't. It will actually move slower. So this actually, on a mentality level, works against you, right? So if you are going to be doing that, you got to know what you're walking into, and most people don't. And even when you do know what you're walking into, once again, when we're pre-programmed to measure success based upon the scale, even if you're sitting here watching this and you're like, well, I know this is going to happen, even when you see it happening in real life, it's not enough. That foundational thought of the scale's not moving is it's going to overpower everything that you're actually working to do. So is the gym, is it beneficial for muscle production? Sure, right? Because you're increasing HGH. Is it beneficial for you if you are trying to lose more weight or lose weight faster? No. And then it actually can work against you and it can make it much more difficult to fast. So in the long run, it actually, for most people, will do more harm than good, particularly on a mental level, not physical.
And see, that right there is the mind of a coach, right? Because most people are going to think basically fasting is good for you. Fasting helps weight loss. Eating well is good for you. It helps with weight loss. Diet or exercise is good for you. It helps with weight loss or building up muscle. They're not going to understand the intricacies of how you would really manage all of these things together. Yeah. So this is the benefit of not just the knowledge that we present, but also the experience. Because a lot of people, who have this type of knowledge, they get it from books. I think what makes AHA special, what made your first real successful video special, is the fact that we're just genuinely speaking about our own experience. And that seems to resonate with people, and it seems to help people a great deal. So at the end of the day, it's one of those things where you're going to have to decide how you want to approach things. I think it's good to give people all of the information and let them make their own decisions.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a really good response. So at this point, right, you've dropped quite a few pounds. You've been, working out, and you've kind of played around with that. What were some of the issues that you had resolved? We don't have to go through all of them because we already did that, but maybe, a couple of major issues that you resolved. And then, what was the next phase of your journey after that?
Okay. So we're talking about the end of that 90 days, basically?
Yeah. So we did the end of the 90 days. What were some of the issues that you had resolved?
Okay. Yeah. So at that time, I had tons of insulin resistance, which I didn't really know at the time. So like the back of my neck was really dark, right? Which is a massive sign of insulin resistance. Black bags under the eyes, right? Another large sign of insulin resistance. Insulin resistance, of course, it's typically in people with diabetes, right? So I never necessarily had a diagnosis, but that's just simply because I didn't go to the doctor. But obviously being understanding the symptoms, I had diabetic nerve pain. I had issues sleeping. I had, if I didn't eat, I would start to feel queasy, every few hours. So I resolved those issues, right? I had issues with my blood pressure. Like I was at the doctor the one time with my son, and he took my blood pressure. And he's like, your blood pressure's really high. And I'm like, oh, doc, I'm a little bit bigger. Every time I go to the doctor, it's a little elevated.
Right.
And he was like, you know what? Go ahead. We're gonna set you up with with an appointment. Come back. We'll go ahead and we'll get you on something. We'll get you taken care of. And I was like, yeah, no problem, doc. I never scheduled that. Like, I'm not coming back. I'm not getting on medication, right? But I knew that I had issues with my blood pressure as well. Like, I couldn't feel temperature, So I was always hot. Like, I would go outside in the wintertime with like just a shirt, and I'm like, it's a little chilly because my skin was cold, but I wasn't cold. I was dealing with iron issues, which I didn't really know that I had, but I was dealing with issues with my iron. So I had an absorption issue, right? And then also I was dealing with like issues with my liver. So, once again, it was undiagnosed fatty liver. So, those are probably some of the big stickouts. Oh, also, I got a lot, but I get this last one. I had issues with joint pain. So it wasn't arthritis. It was more of tendonitis. And for a year, I had to wear like braces on my wrists because I had like explosive inflammation in my wrists, my lower back, and my knees. And it got to the point where I literally, I worked on a computer. I couldn't type. It was a little TMI, man. We get into this stuff. Like I couldn't wipe myself going to the bathroom, right? Like I had to literally figure out ways to wipe myself when going to the bathroom because my wrists would hurt so bad for a year. Like it got to a point where if I had to go poop, I had to take a shower afterwards because I couldn't properly get myself clean. Living like that is terrible, right? And I know that I'm the type of person that I'm going to talk about this stuff because I know there's people out there that deal with it also.
Absolutely.
They're not going to talk about it. It's embarrassing. It's like I'm 28, 30, 30 years old, and I'm, that's something that would happen to someone who's like 80.
Yeah.
I can't wipe myself.
Right. Like you have to have a nurse.
Yeah. That's typical. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
And it was like, no one's is ever going to know this. No one knew this. And actually,
I didn't know.
I've never even shared it before. So that's a new, new
that's bro. That's and you're absolutely right. The level of embarrassment or the shame that you would carry around knowing that. And not being able to tell the people that are closest to you. I just can't imagine. And some of the things that people out there are dealing with, and it's like. It's unfortunate because it's almost like sometimes we have to get to these extremes in order to spark change. But then it's like, but you don't, though. Like, you don't have to get that bad.
Yeah.
But somehow we've conditioned ourselves sometimes to just let ourselves get so insanely bad to where now it's like it's do or die.
Yeah. The point of no return. Like, if you continue on this route for another year or two, you're in trouble.
You're in major trouble.
You're in deep doo-doo, so to speak.
I want y'all to understand something, man. Just take a moment and just think about where you are in your health and wellness journey. Think about, the yo-yoing you've done, that wellness wheel, just constantly on that wheel, just running and not going anywhere. And think about what these potential outcomes could be for you if you do not start making progress. I don't even want to say taking it seriously because I think people do take it seriously, but there's a lot of obstacles. So there's obstacles, right? You're not allowed to just run into an obstacle and give up. You've got to learn how to hurdle these obstacles, go around them. I don't care what you get, a kite, fly over it. Like, you know what I mean? We gotta start making progress because this is a 28-year-old man, at least at the time. Right?
I look 20.
having the issues of an 80-year-old man.
Yeah.
None of us are immune to this.
Yeah.
We're all susceptible to this, especially with the amount of processed foods and sugars, the vaccinations and everything that we're taking into our bodies. So you saw some incredible outcomes. We were very excited to share that with the group. And then you hit more obstacles. Life happened.
Yeah. So, obstacles, as you stated, are going to come. And I thought that at this point, I was unstoppable, right? I thought, I had been doing this for less than a year. Like, I lost 90 pounds in 90 days almost to the letter. I think it was like 89.5.
Yeah, it was extremely close.
It was almost to the letter. And I just was like, I feel unstoppable. Like, so then I continued that process, and I kept losing weight. And life happens. And what I did not do while I was working this process is that I did not work on myself deeply, spiritually. I did not work on myself mentally, right? I wasn't going through, this healing process. I wasn't in therapy. I wasn't doing anything. Things naturally were happening because I was releasing toxicity. I was releasing weight. So naturally, you do that. There's a connection that automatically comes. But I wasn't deep diving into a lot of things. I just thought, well, Chris, my problem is the weight. Mm-hmm. That's my problem. Mm-hmm. If I get the weight off, I'll be good, right? That's what I was thinking. And I did, right? And then what ended up happening is, and I know I talked about this in a deeper video, so I won't get too deep into it. I lose my best friend to suicide. And what I did not realize is that I carried guilt for that situation because from what I knew, I was one of the last people that he had spoke with the night prior. He called me. He was trying to get me to come out to Pennsylvania to pick him up, right? He was like, listen, let's just get a hotel. We can drink, I got to get out of here, right? And I didn't because, I didn't have to work the next day. I was going to go out there the next day anyway. So I was like, hey, man, I'll be out there tomorrow. You'll be good. You know what I'm saying? You'll be all right. It was like 2 a.m. Like, you'll be okay. Next morning, it wasn't okay, right? So I felt guilty for that. And I took on the guilt, the shame of, that situation, the grief, and all of what I thought, the reasoning for what I was doing, my purpose, all that went out the window. And from that point, I just started going back up. My diet completely out the window. I went from, eating, the kale mix, right, with mushrooms, and I was vegetarian. I was moving alkaline. I was moving vegan, and I went from that to almost overnight Taco Bell, McDonald's. I was in the bar every night. It was bad. And then, of course, slowly but surely, I just started to creep right back up. And then it got to the point where I got up to, at that point, right about 280, 285-ish in that area. So I'd gained, a significant amount of weight.
Yeah.
And then, because of me drinking, I was reckless. I was drinking. I was getting in trouble, right? I was in trouble with the Johnny Law. And then, right, I talked about this in another video, but then because of that situation, I got into a lot of trouble. I was in a car accident, and I had been drinking, and they got me, right? They got me. So I had to sit it down for a little bit, right? I went away, and during that time, I did the one thing that you should do when something like that happens is I utilize my time, right? And during that time frame, I started to really dig into spirituality and try to figure out what it is that I truly believe in. I learned who I was. I started to figure out some of my core issues, right? Why is it that I drink? Why is it that I allow people to talk me into doing things that I don't want to do? Right? I started to understand the reason that I am who I am, right? How I make decisions and why I make those decisions. And then the most important thing about all of this, I began to take radical responsibility for everything that was happening in my life. So radical responsibility is more or less not just taking accountability, right? Accountability is going to be the things that I can control with my decisions. Responsibility is things that can be shared. So if something happens, you and me can both take responsibility, right? So radical responsibility is basically like, I don't care if you take responsibility, I will take responsibility for the whole thing. Right. Now, that doesn't necessarily relieve you of responsibility, but what it does is it makes me in control of my decision making and everything that happens around me. So
it's powerful.
Right. So by taking radical responsibility, I wasn't, I could have blamed everybody in the world for all these things that happened. And it's like, no, it was on me. Right. it happened. Everything happened the way it happened. I'm glad it happened. It happened for a reason. And it has dramatically changed my life in such a great way. But that wouldn't have happened if I did not work during that time and then continue to work, right? After I got out, I came to Texas, and then I continued to work, right? So then, of course, we did another video. It was my comeback video. And if you look at that video, I was much bigger than I am now. In that time, I sprouted up probably another 40 pounds. I was about 320 or so when I got out and I got to Texas. And from that point, I then started to work again on this journey.
Yeah, and it's when you got back, when you moved to Texas, was it been like 2.5 years now?
Yeah, yep. Good job.
It was incredible seeing you put into practice what you had learned, because it's very rare, especially in that period of time. And it was not that it's a short period of time, but it is when you're in regular life and you're working 9 to 5 and you're dealing with girlfriends and all this other stuff. But to be able to put into practice what you had learned, and implement it as a lifestyle, I was astonished. I was like, yo, this dude is the real deal. To the point where, and at one point you were very reluctant about getting back into AHA and beginning to teach. And I'm like, listen, I wouldn't put you back out there if you weren't ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's a certain level of responsibility that I have towards the community and making sure that the leadership is in a healthy place. And you were showing me something I'd never seen before, and I admired it. And especially with everything that you had gone through, it was so easy for you to just simply blame anybody else or make excuses. I've seen people make excuses for much less.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so then we started to, get you locked back in. There was another thing about it. So when you all, so now just for the audience, right? When you all are going through your things, your obstacles, if you can get ahead of it, if you can start doing some sort of therapy, we now offer several courses that are designed to help give you tools to prepare you for this, because we're taking what we've learned as a whole, and we're creating programs and things to help you guys so that you don't necessarily have to go through it the way that Steve did.
Yeah, don't nobody need to go through that.
Man. I mean, it's dangerous. It's dangerous on many different levels. I
almost died in that. I could have died in that car, man.
Yeah,
I got an accident with an 18-wheeler. I mean, my car. What'd you say? You said my car looked like a crushed soda can.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even remember any of it. The only reason the crazy thing is that I saw it, right? I saw the video of it, and I just. I'm here for a reason, man.
Yeah,
I'm here for a reason.
It's not worth the risk. You got children, you have loved ones. Even when people are in that depressed state and they feel like nobody loves you, it's not true.
Yeah.
It's just there's a chemical imbalance, there's a hormonal imbalance. There are maybe even energetic influences that are telling you that no one loves you, no one cares about you, but it's not true. But the key is we've already been through this. So if we can get ahead of it and help guide you guys past this type of stuff, once again, we can make this process more seamless. So now, we're developing the 40-day class. Steve starts teaching at the same time. Now that he's locked into the community, because what I knew was going to happen is we can get you locked into the community. You start learning and you start growing rapidly. It's a fuel source, which is why I think the community is so important. This is why one of the things we just did was we moved. We shouldn't say we moved. We took the Facebook group and we duplicated it on our own platform called AHA Communities. And AHA Communities is a place that we host where it's just purely our community. And I think that community is so powerful for accountability, for knowledge. Our community is so freaking knowledgeable. We have so many students. You know what I'm saying? And they love helping each other. And I knew once you got back in that environment, it was going to help to continue to keep you motivated and propel you forward.